It all started with a craving. I was wandering through the aisles of an old country store, the kind that always smelled like wood polish and memories. The shelves were packed with goods, jars of pickles, preserves, and jam stacked neatly, their colorful labels faded with time. But one jar caught my eye. It was strawberry jam, nestled at the back of the shelf, almost hidden. The jar looked handmade, its label written in uneven, scrawling handwriting that read, Eleanor's Strawberry Bliss. The vibrant red color of the jam seemed brighter, richer than any I'd ever seen. The cashier, an elderly woman with gnarled hands and a distant gaze, hesitated when I placed the jar on the counter. "Are you sure about this one?" she asked, her voice low and cautious. "Why wouldn't I be?" I replied, puzzled. She stared at the jar for a long moment before ringing it up. "Just, don't eat it alone." That night, the craving won. I toasted some bread, letting the golden aroma fill my tiny apartment. The jam spread like silk, its texture smoother than anything I'd tasted before. I took a bite and my senses were overwhelmed. It was perfect. The sweetness wasn't cloying, and the flavor was so intense that it felt almost alive. I devoured slice after slice until the jar was half empty. But then the whispers started. At first I thought it was the wind. A faint murmur seemed to drift through my kitchen, too soft to make out any words. I ignored it and continued eating, but the whispers grew louder. They sounded close, too close. I turned around, expecting to see someone standing behind me, but the room was empty. Only the jar sat on the counter, the label now oddly askew. The whispers stopped the moment I looked at it. That night I dreamt of strawberries. Fields of them stretched endlessly under a blood-red sky. The air smelled sickly sweet, and the berries seemed unnaturally large, their surfaces glistening like raw meat. I wandered through the fields, my hands brushing against the fruit. But when I looked down, the strawberries were bleeding, their crimson juices pooling around my feet. A figure appeared in the distance. A woman in a long dress, her face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, stood silently among the plants. She pointed at me with a hand stained red. I woke up gasping, the taste of strawberries still lingering in my mouth. The next morning, the jar was on my bedside table. I was certain I'd left it in the kitchen. My stomach churned at the sight of it, but the craving returned, stronger than ever. I grabbed a spoon and dipped it directly into the jar. The jam tasted different this time, richer, darker, with an underlying bitterness. I couldn't stop myself, spoon after spoon disappearing until I scraped the bottom of the jar. That's when I saw it. Embedded in the last bit of jam was something small and metallic. I fished it out and wiped it clean. It was a locket, its surface etched with tiny strawberries. Inside was a picture of the woman from my dream. The whispers returned, louder than ever. I tried to drown them out with music, but they grew insistent, calling my name in a chorus of soft, rasping voices. The jam jar was back on the counter, somehow full again. The label, now completely peeled off, revealed something carved into the glass. Property of Eleanor. Do not steal. My hands trembled as I threw the jar into the trash, but the whispers didn't stop. That night I woke to the sound of footsteps. They were slow and deliberate, moving from the kitchen toward my bedroom. My heart pounded as I clutched my phone, but the screen refused to light up. The footsteps stopped just outside my door. I held my breath, the air thick with the sickly sweet smell of strawberries. The door creaked open and there she was. The woman from my dream. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken and hollow. She held the jar in one hand, the locket dangling from the other. "You ate what wasn't yours," she whispered, her voice dripping with malice. "Now you belong to the field." I don't remember much after that. When I woke up, I was surrounded by endless strawberry fields under a blood-red sky. The air was heavy, the smell of strawberries suffocating. I tried to run, but my feet sank into the soil. I looked down to see roots growing from my legs, twisting and anchoring me to the ground. The woman appeared again, her hollow eyes filled with a cruel satisfaction. "You're one of mine now," she said. I screamed, but no sound came out. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was a new jar being placed on a shelf, my name scrawled across the label. And somewhere, someone else is craving strawberry jam.